You're listening to Speak English with Chat.
On Chat English. Welcome back to Chat English, where we practice the real English you actually need. Today, we are going to build a survival simulator for your brain. Imagine this. You are in the office kitchen grabbing a coffee when a senior coworker suddenly asks, "So, what is your take on the new strategy?" Your mind goes completely blank, your heart beats fast, and you feel that hot panic rising in your chest as you just stare at them.
I hate that feeling so much. I remember my first week at a new job, the boss asked me a simple question in the hallway, and my face turned bright red as I suddenly forgot every English word I had ever learned.
Today, we are giving you 3 exact, natural phrases to copy and paste to save yourself when you freeze, so you never have to feel that panic again.
Exactly why today's topic is so important. We are talking about surviving the freeze. And let me tell you, when I was standing in that hallway with my boss, the silence felt like it lasted for a million years. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me.
I know that exact feeling, and the most frustrating part is that it has nothing to do with your English level. You could study vocabulary for 10 years. You could know all the advanced grammar rules perfectly, but when that sudden pressure hits, your brain just shuts down. It is a biological reaction. Your nervous system goes into fight or flight mode, and suddenly the English language completely disappears from your brain.
Yes, exactly. And what we usually do in that moment of panic makes it worse. We start making strange noises. We say ah, well, or we just freeze completely and stare at the other person with wide eyes.
Which makes the other person feel awkward too. They do not know if you heard them, if you misunderstood them, or if you are just ignoring them. But here's the good news. Native speakers lose their words all the time. Native speakers forget what they are going to say every single day. The difference is that a native speaker has a built-in conversational routine to handle the freeze.
Right, they don't panic. They just use a filler phrase to buy themselves a few seconds of time. They pause the conversation, fix their brain, and keep going. And that's exactly what we are going to teach you how to do today.
And before we dive into our first survival phrase, I want to remind you that you do not need to memorize everything we say right now. Every episode comes with a free PDF guide. You will find the link right in the description below. Inside, you get the full transcript, comprehension questions, and grammar exercises based on today's conversation.
It also has all the copy and paste phrases we are about to teach you. You can download it to your phone and review it right before a big meeting or a networking event. It's a great way to practice real English and grow your confidence at the same time.
Perfect. Let us begin with our first survival tool. We call this the Buy Time Toolkit. When you freeze, your only goal is to buy yourself 3 or 4 seconds to calm your heart rate and find the English word you need. So instead of saying or staring in silence, you are going to look the person in the eye and say, "Give me just a second to gather my thoughts."
Give me just a second to gather my thoughts. I love that phrase so much. It sounds so professional. But Alice, can you explain the word gather for our listeners? When I hear gather, I usually think about picking things up, like gathering apples from a tree or gathering flowers in a field.
That's a great visual, and it's exactly what the word means here, too. To gather means to collect things and bring them together. When you say your mind goes blank, it feels like your ideas have scattered everywhere. They are flying around the room. By saying you need to gather your thoughts, you are telling the other person, "My ideas are here, I just need to pick them up and put them in order."
Ah, I get it. So you're not saying I don't understand you, you're saying I have an answer. I just need to organize it. That makes you look really smart, actually.
Exactly. It shows discipline and control. And I want to point out the grammar happening inside this phrase because it's a very natural pattern. We say, "Give me just a second to gather my thoughts." We use the word to plus the verb gather. This is how we state our intention during a pause.
Give me a second to gather. Okay, so we're telling them the reason for the pause.
Exactly. If you just say, "Give me a second," the other person might wonder, why? Are you checking your phone? Are you walking away? But when you add the to plus the verb, you give them a clear reason. Give me a second to check my notes. Give me a moment to think about that. Give me a minute to pull up the email.
That makes so much sense. I used to just say, please wait. And saying please wait to your boss sounds a little bit rude, like you're giving him a command. But saying give me just a second to gather my thoughts sounds polite and thoughtful.
Yes, it is incredibly polite. So let us put this into practice immediately. We are going to do a pause and reply exercise. I want you, the listener, to physically say this phrase out loud wherever you are right now. Are you ready? Here is the scenario. We are in the office kitchen. I am your manager. I walk up to you and I ask you a complicated question. When I finish asking, I want you to reply out loud with, "Give me just a second to gather my thoughts." Here we go. So, what is your take on the new marketing strategy?
Give me just a second to gather my thoughts.
Great job. Now let us try it one more time. And this time, I want you to pay attention to your body language. When you say this phrase, you do not want to look panicked. Take a slow, deep breath. Look away from the person for just a second. Maybe look down at your coffee cup or up at the ceiling. Say the phrase and then look back at them. It shows that you are deep in thought. Let us try it again. So, what is your take on the new marketing strategy?
Give me just a second to gather my thoughts.
Excellent. Just practicing that out loud trains your mouth to use the phrase automatically when the real panic hits.
And Alice, I want to add something here. Sometimes we freeze not because the question is hard, but because we're distracted. The other day, I was in a Zoom meeting, and right when it was my turn to speak, my dog started barking loudly in the other room. I completely forgot what I was talking about. I froze. Is there a specific phrase I can use when I get distracted like that?
That is a brilliant question, and it leads perfectly to our second survival phrase. When you are speaking and something interrupts you, or you just suddenly forget the middle of your sentence, you can say, "I completely lost my train of thought."
I completely lost my train of thought. This is one of my favorite idioms in English, but it might sound a little strange if you translate it directly. Why do we talk about trains when we're having a conversation?
Think of your mind like a train traveling on a track. Your ideas are the train cars, all connected in a straight line moving forward. When you are speaking fluently, your train of thought is moving smoothly down the tracks. But if a dog barks, or if someone asks a sudden question, or if you just forget an English word, the train falls off the tracks. It crashes. You lost your train of thought.
I love that image. It is so visual, and it happens to everyone. So when I say I lost my train of thought, I'm basically admitting that my brain just took a wrong turn and crashed.
Exactly. And admitting it is actually a sign of confidence. It shows you have humility. Instead of pretending that you're perfect or trying to hide the fact that you forgot your words, you just smile, own the mistake, and name it. You say, "Wow, I completely lost my train of thought. What was I just saying?"
Oh, that is a great addition. Asking the other person to help you remember. What was I just saying? Let's try a pause and reply for this one too. I want our listeners to really feel how natural this sounds.
Perfect. Listeners, imagine you are telling a story to a colleague. You're halfway through the story, and suddenly your phone rings loudly. You look at it, look back at your colleague, and you realize your mind is entirely blank. You have no idea what you were just talking about. I want you to smile, take a breath, and say out loud, "I completely lost my train of thought." Ready? Here's the phone ringing. Ring, ring. You silence it, look up, and say,
I completely lost my train of thought. Now let's try it with the follow-up question. Ring, ring, ring. You silence it, look up, and say, I completely lost my train of thought. What was I just saying?
"Fantastic. You're doing great." By using these phrases, you're taking control of the conversation instead of letting the panic control you. You're being proactive, not reactive.
That is a huge mindset shift. Being proactive means you're shaping the environment and your routines. You know you're going to forget words sometimes. It's a fact of speaking a second language. So instead of hoping it never happens, you prepare for it. You bring your survival toolkit.
Exactly. And if you're finding this survival simulator helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. We build these practical, real-life English routines every single week, so you can walk into any room, face any conversation, and speak with total confidence.
Now, Alice, we have talked about how to buy time when we freeze. We know how to gather our thoughts, and we know how to explain that we lost our train of thought. But what happens next? Eventually, I have to actually answer the question. I have to restart my sentence. And this is the part where I usually mess up.
That is the ultimate challenge. You bought yourself 3 seconds. The panic is gone. Now you need to recover. And to teach you how to do this, we are going to play a game. We are going to do a best reply quiz.
Ooh, I love the best reply quizzes. Let us do it.
I'm going to give you a scenario, and I will give you 3 options for how to reply. I want you, the listener, to choose the option that makes you sound the most professional, the most natural, and the most confident. Here is the scenario. You are in a meeting. You try to explain a complicated idea, but you use the wrong vocabulary word. The sentence becomes a huge mess. Nobody understands what you're saying. You freeze. You take a breath and you say, "Give me a second to gather my thoughts." Now it's time to restart. Which of these 3 options is the best way to begin again? Option A, you look down and say, "I'm so sorry, my English is very bad today." Option B, you look them in the eye and say, "Let me start over. What I meant to say was." Or option C, you do not say anything, you just stare at the table in complete silence and hope someone else starts talking.
Wow. Okay, listeners, what do you think? Is it A, B, or C? I can tell you from personal experience that option C is a complete disaster. I have done the silent stare before. I just looked at my notebook and prayed for the meeting to end. It makes everyone in the room incredibly uncomfortable and it destroys your professional image.
Exactly. Option C is the reactive choice. You are just waiting and letting the situation control you. Silence without a filler phrase is deadly in a conversation. People need verbal clues to know what is happening in your head.
So it has to be A or B. And I know a lot of people, including myself in the past, who would immediately choose option A. "I'm so sorry, my English is bad." It feels like the safest thing to say. You want to excuse your mistake so they don't judge you.
It is a very common reaction, but option A is actually a trap. It's a trap that hurts your confidence and damages how other people see you. When you constantly apologize for your English, you're drawing attention away from your ideas and forcing everyone to focus on your language skills.
That's a really profound point. If I'm in a business meeting, my ideas are what matter. But if I say, "Sorry, my English is bad," I'm telling everyone in the room that I'm not capable. It lowers my status.
Exactly. And it puts a burden on the native speaker. When you say, "Sorry, my English is bad," the other person feels obligated to comfort you. They have to say, "Oh no, your English is fine, don't worry." You turn a professional conversation into an emotional therapy session. It's exhausting for both people.
I never thought about it like that. So by apologizing, I'm actually making the situation more awkward. That means option B is the winner. Let me start over. What I meant to say was,
Yes, option B is the perfect reply. Let me start over. It's clean, it's direct, and it's completely unapologetic. You made a mistake, you recognized it, and now you're fixing it. That's resilience in action.
resilience. We talk about that word a lot, bouncing back from a difficulty. When you say, "Let me start over," you're showing incredible resilience. You're not letting the mistake ruin your whole day.
Exactly. And look at the grammar in the second half of that phrase. What I meant to say was, we use the past tense meant from the verb mean. You're telling them, my previous sentence didn't match my actual intention. My intention was this. What I meant to say was,
What I meant to say was, that phrase is pure gold. It gives you a clean slate. It erases the messy sentence you just said and gives you permission to try again with simpler words.
that's the secret. When you start over, don't try to use the same complicated vocabulary that made you freeze in the first place. Pivot to simpler English. If you got stuck trying to use a complex business idiom, let it go. When you say, let me start over, just explain your idea using the easiest, most basic words you know. Clarity is always better than complexity.
Clarity over complexity. I love that. But Alice, I have to ask a probing question here because I know our listeners are probably thinking the exact same thing. Let's say I use the toolkit. I freeze. I say, give me a second to gather my thoughts. I take a deep breath. I say, let me start over. What I meant to say was, and then I freeze again. I still can't find the word. What if they judge me? What if they think I'm stupid?
That is the fear of the ego talking. The ego tells you that you have to be perfect, that you can never show weakness. But the reality is, people do not judge you for forgetting a word. They judge you based on how you handle the moment.
Wow, that is powerful. They judge you on how you handle the moment.
Exactly. Think about a time you watched a native speaker give a presentation. Sometimes they lose their place in their notes. Sometimes they stammer or forget a key statistic. Do you instantly think they are stupid? No. You probably just think, oh, they're human, they made a mistake. If they laugh, look at the audience, and say, well, I completely lost my train of thought, let me check my notes, you actually like them more. They seem authentic.
That is so true. When someone is too perfect, it feels robotic. When they show a little vulnerability but they handle it with grace, it builds trust. So when I freeze and I use these natural phrases, I am actually showing my colleagues that I am calm under pressure.
Exactly. You are demonstrating high-level communication skills. Knowing how to navigate a breakdown in communication is a higher-level skill than just reciting perfect grammar. It shows maturity. It shows humility. You are saying, I am still learning, my brain is processing two languages at once, and I am doing my best. That commands respect.
It really does. It completely changes the way I view those moments of panic. Instead of seeing a blank mind as a failure, I can see it as an opportunity to practice my recovery skills. It is an opportunity to use my new survival toolkit.
Yes, discipline is not about never failing. Discipline is about always returning. Every time you freeze and you choose to use a filler phrase instead of panicking, you are building a stronger habit. You are rewiring your brain.
So let us review the exact steps of this habit loop, because earlier we talked about how a habit has a cue, a routine, and a reward.
Exactly. In this situation, the cue is the blank mind, the moment you realize you have forgotten the word and the panic starts to rise. That is your trigger.
Right, and in the past, my routine was to panic, say and ah, and then apologize for my bad English. And the reward was feeling terrible and losing my confidence.
But now you are going to swap out that routine. Keep the cue, the blank mind, but your new routine is to take a breath, maintain eye contact, and use a phrase. Give me a second to gather my thoughts, or I completely lost my train of thought. And then you recover with, let me start over.
And the new reward is feeling in control, sounding like a native speaker, and maintaining your professional image. That is a brilliant habit look. I feel like I have a safety net now.
You do have a safety net, and the more you practice these phrases out loud, the stronger that net becomes. You'll start to realize that you do not need to fear the blank mind anymore. You are equipped to handle it.
I am definitely going to start using what I meant to say was, that is going to save me in so many meetings.
I am so glad to hear that, and I want to challenge all of our listeners to do exactly the same thing. This week, I want you to actively look for an opportunity to practice. Even if you don't completely freeze, try using one of these phrases just to feel how it sounds in your mouth.
Yes, the physical practice is the only way it becomes natural. You cannot just listen to us talk about it. You have to train your mouth to make the sounds.
Exactly. And we would love to hear about your experiences. We have a comment prompt for you today, and it uses the exact grammar we practiced earlier. I want you to go down to the comments right now and answer this question. What is one situation where your mind usually goes blank?
And to answer, use this exact sentence structure. When I'm in blank,
I usually lose my train of thought. For example, you could write, when I'm in a job interview, I usually lose my train of thought. Or when I'm talking to a native speaker on the phone, I usually lose my train of thought.
I can't wait to read your answers. It's so helpful to see that we all struggle with the exact same situations. You are not alone in this journey. We are all building this resilience together.
Exactly, and reading the comments always reminds me of that. It's a great community.
It really is. Now, the next time you speak English, I challenge you to intentionally pause for 3 seconds before answering a question, just to build this new resilience muscle. Gather your thoughts, take a breath, and then speak.
And if you struggle with keeping the conversation going after you recover from a freeze, you need to know how to ask the right questions. Click the video on your screen right now to learn the best natural bridging phrases to keep any conversation flowing smoothly.
Thank you so much for practicing with us today. Keep training your brain, keep giving yourself grace when you make mistakes, and we'll see you in the next episode.